without further ado, let's welcome Shaz Hussain.
Hi everyone, what is up? I'm Shaz. I work at the Science Museum. I'm an assistant curator there. And also I do a lot of independent consultation work with museums, art galleries, other heritage organisations about the representation and inclusion of people of colour. I'm also part of a group called Museum Detox, who I'll go on to talk about later, but together with them I started something called the White Privilege Clinic. So who is Museum Detox? This is us, and also some of our Dutch friends. This is where the story of the White Privilege Clinic starts. At this point in time, this was summer last year. I was 4 months into my first ever museum job, and was kindly given a free ticket to this conference. And I had just joined this group, Museum Detox, and we are a network group of Black, Asian, minority ethnic, people who consider themselves people of colour, who work in museums. There aren't very many of us, but the ones who are there, we're a really great, supportive, strong network. And we had a little meet-up at the MCNx conference, and there was a workshop that was happening at that conference, and it was about empathy and walking in other people's shoes. And in that workshop, there was something that somebody introduced to us called the White Privilege Test, and they were carrying it out in a few museums and galleries in the Netherlands. And I was looking around the room at this workshop, and everyone there looked like this group, basically. We were all brown, which is kind of it was a bit of a self-selected group, and I thought to myself, well, we kind of already know what the tea is here, we need to send this out to other people. This is stupid if it's just us doing it. So I thought, okay, I need to take it to a bigger audience, and I need to take it to an audience that can't escape, and who have no other choice but to fill out the test. So where's bigger or better than the Museums Association conference? So I pitched an idea to them, and they gave me some money and said, yeah, go ahead, do it. That was a bit scary and a bit crazy. So I went to the Museums Association conference in November last year, and I carried out the White Privilege Clinic. So what is the White Privilege Clinic? Well, the clinic is a space where delegates, other museum professionals that we all know, can come and take a white privilege test, which is 26 questions, yes or no answers. They're very simple. And at the end of the test, we say if you scored more than 50%, you might want to consider having a conversation with one of the consultants who was a member of Museum Detox. So you enter the clinic, and you take the test, you come and speak to one of us at the end of it, and together we talk about your answers, how you scored, what white privilege means to you, what you understand about it, the context of it within your museum, how it moves, how it works, what it looks like, and what you personally are going to do to change that. The onus was really on the people who came to the clinic to come up with their own positive actions. It was a list of maybe 1 to 3 things that were small but challenging enough that people could perform them and make them feel as if they could actually play a positive part in changing racism within their workplace. So I wanted to make it a bit more creative, wanted to make it a bit more fun, because obviously the word white privilege is really scary and people don't like it when I say it, and they put a face every time that I do. So in the lead up to the clinic, we were posting loads of stuff on Twitter, kind of teasers, and we had some posters that I made up using Pixlr, actually. And this was based off the NHS, I think the swine flu campaign, because I thought it was kind of funny. It says, you wouldn't put off taking your medicine, so why put off taking a white privilege test? And we posted this on Twitter, and it got loads of reactions. People were really interested to see what the hell we were doing. There's another poster that we did, mildly terrifying with the needle. But I figured, okay, it might be painful, it might be not that pleasant, but the overall aim is that it's going to help you be better, feel better. Another thing that we did is that we posted a few more teasers. So I used a hashtag that already existed, especially in the museum world, hashtag what's in the bag. And people love free stuff. So when I posted saying, if you come to the clinic, you're going to get a bag and you don't know what's in it, people got really excited and they just wanted to know what it was. So that was a great way to get people to come. So what happened at the clinic? I was really nervous before the clinic started, and I'd received quite a few like racially abusive messages on Twitter beforehand, and I thought, oh crap, I've got everybody into trouble, I'm going to have to shut this whole thing down and cancel it. And I called up the Museum Association, and they were like, don't do that, like, you have our support, don't worry, we're here behind you, you've got a counsellor, it will be fine. So 2 minutes before the clinic was about to open, and I was like hyperventilating, and people came out of the first keynote speech, and I couldn't believe it. The queue was insane. We had about 100 people rush to our desk. They all formed a massive queue. I know British people just love queuing, and I'm not sure they even knew what they were queuing for, but they were queuing. And within 2 hours, I'd completely run out of tests. They were all gone. Everybody had taken the test. People were begging to be self-critical and to like introspect on themselves, which was kind of crazy. And people were posting on Twitter. We were really encouraging people to use social media to talk about the clinic, to get other people to come, but also to hold themselves accountable for what was happening at the clinic. Here's an example of one of the tweets that somebody sent out. It's got a picture of the test and one of the posters. It was a really important tool, Twitter, to engage people with what was happening. We used a series of different hashtags and stuff, and it really got the ball rolling. I'm going to show you a couple of the tweets. I've been given my prescription, and it involves launching our new #Roman Identity Schools workshop. I really like tweets like this because they're really quite specific and they talk about specific things. And we really wanted people to tweet their positive actions that came from the consultation so that they were held accountable for what they said that they were going to do. And then, you know, if all your friends and your colleagues have seen this, then they know you're going to have to do it at some point. It'd be kind of really embarrassing if you didn't. Another one, everyone should take museum detox white privilege tests, whether they work in the museum sector or not. I've got privilege, so I need to listen more and be a better ally. Another one, thanks Museum Detox for the refreshing talk about white privilege. My prescription is to do more to ensure neutrality throughout my work and work for sustainable engagement instead of tokenism. That was a really lovely one that somebody tweeted out. Obviously, being on Twitter, you're also open to loads of weird negative comments too. I'm going to show you the tamest ones. I don't want, like, there was some pretty nasty stuff that went around, but this one, it's not white privilege unless it would also be black privilege in a country where white people were a minority. How about if I asked you questions about me and made to feel guilty because of the colour of my skin? Funny enough, none of these people actually took the test, so... Fred, lovely Fred. This is more of a list of why people don't like being black. Notice Fred doesn't have a profile picture either. Thanks, Fred. But to arm ourselves and to equip ourselves with the right sort of comebacks and be able to talk about this in a more friendly way, there's a ton of research about race and racism, and there were loads of different places I could go to get the right answers to have those difficult conversations. Black Lives Matter do a really great resource pack. There's a website called the Safety Pin Box, which is really interesting. Also the racism scale, this I adapted for the conference itself. And it was a really great tool for people to be able to pick some of the things on there and say, oh, like that applies to me. Like, can we talk about this? Why am I not in the green or the blue? Why does this make me in the yellow category? And they were like, I think people really appreciated that we were being just quite open and honest. Like, we use the word black, we use the word brown. People tend to like whisper that word. I'm not really sure why. People feel really uncomfortable using this kind of language, but we were like, hey, like, we're not here to be offended, neither should you. We're going to have this open, honest conversation. Here are some tools to help you do that. Despite all of that, however, there obviously were some difficult conversations we were having. It was a very emotional experience for a lot of people, and it was the kind of conversations that actually I realised most of these people had never had in their lives before. So some of the weird things that people said I'm going to share with you because they're kind of funny. But scientifically, we are all the same, really. That one was really annoying when people say that. Why can't I call you coloured if I want to? This guy came back 4 times. By the 4th time, he stopped saying it, and I think he kind of got it in the end. Well, I just don't really know any black people anyway. I think that one's quite telling of people in museums, perhaps. My personal favourite, I can't have any privilege as I have a broken arm right now. Also, I am a woman. This one was crazy. This woman also came back twice. I think people just couldn't get enough of this. But despite, I'm showing you these things now because although they are funny, at the time they were actually very difficult conversations to have. And when you're sitting there face to face with one of your colleagues and you're looking them dead in the eye and you're explaining to them a number of times that racist things have happened to you at work, a number of times where you felt uncomfortable, or you felt like crying, or you felt attacked at work, and then they look you straight back in the eye and tell you something like this. It's not easy, it's very difficult. But I felt like it was a very important conversation to have, because maybe this was the only time that person's been able to speak to a person of colour about something like this. And despite all of this and all this weird stuff, the most amazing thing happened. Museum Detox won the award at the conference for Best Product. We had an unbelievably positive reception to it. People were so happy, so unbelievably happy about us doing this and about the response that they could give us and that we could give back to them. This group of women did an absolutely incredible thing. I'm so in awe of every single one of them. The fact that they spoke to nearly 1,000 people over 2 days and told their own personal stories of racism face to face with somebody and had those really difficult conversations again and again and again as if they had never had to do it before is really inspiring. These women were strong and powerful, and I think they did an incredible job at trying to tackle the issue of race in our museums. So now it's over to you. I want to do something I've not done before, which might or might not work. If you guys go to slido.com on your phones, make sure you're connected to the Wi-Fi, and if you type in the code 9545, we can take the test. It's your turn. I don't even know if this is going to work. Are we on there? Yes, no, yes, no, nearly. Yes, so it should say on your phone, the first question, I can go to a museum or art gallery and will see people of my race widely represented in the objects and artworks. 88% of you scored yes on that one, and only 12% no. Was that question difficult? Did you find that weird, or was that a bit uncomfortable? Yes, no? Okay. Let's try the next one. As a child, I had access to books where the heroes and protagonists were the same race or colour as me. Have we all voted? Okay. Oh, that one, 91% of you scored yes on that one. That's quite high. Okay, last question. I am never asked to speak on behalf of my race. That one, okay. 74% of you scored yes on that one. So, I mean, just thinking about the numbers that came across there, like, I think it's kind of telling. If you want to speak about it afterwards, that's fine. I'm not going to do the test now. It's very emotionally taxing. So just to end the presentation, I just want to show you a video taken live, from the actual clinic. We've got Nick Merriman, who is the director of the Hornman now, and Sherelle Cunningham, who is a member of Museum Detox. I think she says some really interesting stuff.
What we're kind of doing today is asking people to take a white privilege test in the context of museums, so getting them to understand what that privilege looks like and how it might affect their navigation within their role and within the sector. So we just ask you to take the test, and then we can have a bit of an informal chat after.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. A couple of the questions where I can be sure that when told about our national heritage or about civilization, I'm shown that people of my colour made it what it is. Another one, I can count on my skin colour not to work against the appearance of my financial reliability.
How did you find the test? Were there any questions that you found slightly uncomfortable or to answer?
Some of them made me, the answers made me feel uncomfortable because it made me reflect on what a privilege, or how I completely take for granted some of the issues that are, or some of the blocks or barriers that people of colour encounter that I don't think about. And I would consider myself, as many in the museum profession would, liberal, non-racist and all that sort of thing, but it reminded me that racism is ingrained into the fabric of our culture, and therefore the taken for granted are the things that need surfacing. And it's very good in doing that.
I think that's the point. I think it's about bringing things to the conscious level. So once you're aware of that privilege and you know that, for example, the way you navigate a museum space, for example, it's very different to how someone of colour may navigate that space. What do you now do with that privilege, and how do you affect change with that? So it can be from you having a conversation at work, and a lot of people aren't open to having those conversations within the workplace, which is understandable because they may not understand what white privilege is as a concept and how it looks and how it moves and how it works. But how can you now go on to be an active agent of change?
Yeah. No, I can see that. That's been really useful.
Yeah.
If I can get hold of a copy.
Yes, you can have a copy.
I
bring
can,
back with you.
I can take this to the Manchester Museum and the Whitworth, which is what I have some charge over.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to meet you. Right,
Thank you.
cheers.
Really good
Thank
to
you.
meet with you.
Well, it was very interesting because the questions were pretty straightforward, and most of them I could answer very easily. And the effect was the answers made me feel very uncomfortable. And they really surfaced for me how there are so many taken for granted within our culture about the natural way in which people of a white background just swim with the tide effortlessly and don't have to think about what is, to people of other races, a privilege that they often have to swim against. So it was simply that, and the realization that this is something I ought to take to all of my workplace for us to have a collective discussion about.
So if you want to take the test, the full test, and you want a copy of the racism scale, it's all available on the Museum Detox website. You can find us on Twitter, or you can email me personally to get that. And I guess the biggest takeaway from this is that we're not here to make you feel guilty about white privilege. It's not a bad thing. With privilege comes power, and white privilege can be a really empowering thing. It can be such a useful tool for you to find a way to help people of colour personally, like the thing that you can do that no one else can do. You have whatever power you do have is enough to make a difference, and we wanted to help people find their own personal power to do that and not feel so helpless in the fight against racism. Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Did you want to take questions? Any questions for Shaz?
Thank you. What are you doing next? Museum Detox.
Are we doing loads of things? I think we're formalising. We're becoming an actual proper organisation soon. That's in the works. I'm taking the clinic to the Iron Bridge conference next month, and we're being kind of careful about doing the conference because it was a very emotionally taxing thing for us to do. I mean, I slept for like 12 hours afterwards. If I felt like I'd been hit by a bus, it was really difficult. There were a lot of tears, and we needed a counsellor and things like that. So I'm being careful with what we do with it next, but we're always working on something new. I think we're always causing trouble as a group, so keep an eye out for us. We're on Twitter. We're doing loads of different things. Anyone else? Oh.
Sorry.
Pat, do you want to go?
What's the best thing, one thing, like just in terms of that taxingness, that allies can do so that activists of colour don't have to keep everything to the fight?
That's a really good question. I think, you're going to meet a lot of people of colour who will say to you, it's not my job, it's not my responsibility to teach you. And there are some of us who agree and disagree with that. My personal stance is that I'm not going to teach you, but if you come to me and you genuinely want to know something and you genuinely want the help, and I can see that you're being honest about it, then yeah, I'm more than happy to help, because I don't want to cause any more of a divide if I see you're a true ally. I think the easiest and the best tool that you can utilise is listening. Just listening, that's all we want most of the time, is just somebody to listen to us and not chip in with their 2 cents about something that somebody said about them because they're Irish. Just listen. That might, yeah. I think that's literally the easiest thing you can do.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.